Work is work, Barbara Neff, but you have like maybe the greatest job in New London.
I do.
Tell me about it.
So I'm the executive director of Sailfest, and my sister is an attorney. So if you ask my sister what she does, everyone knows what she does. So my family asks me quite often every year, what do you actually do? And my answer is sometimes I'm booking bands, sometimes I'm talking to vendors, and sometimes I'm booking porta potties.
How many years have you done this?
This will be the 17th year.
How many years has there been Sailfest?
This will be the 36th year for Sailfest.
How did you get involved?
Well, that's pretty interesting. It was over a beer, and I'd like to say that my best ideas come over a beer.
Don't all best ideas come
You agree
over
with me, correct?
Yep.
So I was at the Roadhouse, and I had my family store at the time. And I was at the Roadhouse talking to the owner of the Roadhouse, which was Tom Crosby.
Sure.
And at that time, the event was only a one-day event. It was only Saturday. And him and I were reminiscing about how we remembered it being a 3-day event and how great it was, and that how, it was like Christmas in downtown. All the businesses did really well, and it helped them push them through, the winter where they had build-up bills and stuff like that, and that we really wanted to bring it back. So Tom and I agreed that we were going to go to City Council and ask City Council if we could help run Sailfest. So we went to the next City Council meeting, and we said that we wanted to run Sailfest, and they said, we don't run Sailfest, you have to go to the Downtown New London Association. So we went and found Kip O'Shane, and I said to him, we want to run Sailfest. We want to help, we want to do it. And he says, well, you have to be the president. And so Tom and I looked at each other, and we were like, okay, what do we have to lose? So we went into a meeting where they had an election, and we were nominated from the floor, and I won by 1 vote, and I was president and he was vice president. And the committee, the Sailfest committee, which was about 5 people, maybe 7 people at the time, joined up with us, and I started going to every fair and festival for a year, recruiting people to come. We're going to bring this event back, and to come to this event, and we're going to make it bigger and better. And Tom did all the booking for all the entertainment that year. We got the okay to bring beer back to the festival under regulations, the way it should be.
Right.
We have, all our people are tip certified. We're bringing bartenders in this year to run it. It's kept in a certain location so that you can't just wander around. So there's regulations with it. And we ran the event, and it was a success. We were really happy. Tom said it was way too much for him, that he couldn't do his bar and do Sailfest music. So I said, I'm going to keep going with it. And so that's what I did, and we are now up to a 45-person committee, and now it's much larger than I ever thought it would be.
You said when you first became president that you immediately started going to festivals and fairs all over New England. What does that mean? You walk up to a carny and introduce yourself, or a food vendor, or how does that work?
Well, what we did was is we went to different events. One of the best events in the state of Connecticut, one of the best events is the Big E.
Sure.
And so the Big E has a process that if you participate in their event, you need to come to them and set up your booth, and they need to see how you work with the public and things like that, if you have a demonstration booth and stuff like that. So what we did is we would go up to the Big E and go around and find items that we didn't have that they might want to be interested in selling at our event. And that's how we started. Right. So to go to the Big E, we were getting the best of the best.
Right.
We have over 200 vendors now. We have people that are waiting. What we do is out-of-town vendors pay probably 3 times as what a local vendor or merchant would pay. And then we try to put in items that local people don't have. And so, we have somebody doing, Greek food, because we don't have anybody downtown that actually sells Greek food.
Right.
And so that's what we try to do. So we try to bring in people that, because we have a list of people who want to participate in the event, to now participate, what you have to do is send us pictures of your booth, references of other events you participated in, and contact information. And then we go through them. So if people drop out, then we go through and see, okay, who's participated at high quality events. We'll call the directors, hey, how was this merchant to work with, whatever. We do have a few vendors that we don't allow back at the event. We have kicked out vendors. One vendor didn't clean up after themselves, and so we had a hard time. We had to power wash the streets to make sure they were clean. That vendor didn't come back for 3 years.
Okay.
After begging us and promising it would never happen again, we ended up letting the vendor back. But we're very strict. You know, if people complain to us that the vendors are rude to them, or there isn't a good product, or the health department has a problem with them, we don't let them back.
I don't think people understand, you know, it's like when you're growing up, it's like, let's put on a show, and you go out in the backyard and you have a play or whatever. Or a carnival, a little carnival will come to a parking lot at the grocery store. You have to coordinate so much stuff, and I'm not just talking about getting carnival rides, live music, and food vendors or whatever. You've got all kinds of civic things. You have to parking, coordinating with the fireworks. It's a full-time job, right?
It is a full-time job. We actually brought a consultant in a few years ago to look at my job and to say, you know, and look at the event and say what we should do better, things that we should change, and it's definitely a full-time job. You know, it is a full-time job. I mean, you know, it's not only working with the vendors who do this on a regular basis, but it's also working with the businesses, you know, and saying, you know, you might sell, we have a new business in town that wants to come out for the event. Well, what do you sell? And what are you going to sell that's going to work at this event? Because it's a very fast-paced event. Because there's multi-stages, people want to grab the food. They don't want to sit down. They want to walk around the event. So I just don't want to take your money and say, come set up at my event. What I want to do, because I was a business person, is I want to work with you to have you sell an item that is good, that you're going to make money. You know, if a vendor comes to me and says, I want to sell soup in July, and I'm like, no, you don't. You know, you don't want to sell soup in July. You know, sometimes I can talk them out of it. Sometimes I can't, you know, but sometimes they have a good experience. It's working with those merchants and telling them, you know, you can't just have someone sitting behind your booth. You've got to stand outside your booth. You need to talk to people and greet people. One of the best vendors I have is North End Deli. He's been doing this event longer than I have. He comes back every single year, and he does a great job. And he has a great time. His staff has a great time. They love coming back. They do very well, and they wouldn't come back if they didn't do very well. So you have to have the right product, and sometimes it's a little seeing what the product is.
Clearly, as great as Sailfest is, a lot of people would say that the underbelly, the spine is the fireworks show.
You're right. We are very lucky. Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation has been the sponsor of the fireworks for a lot of years, I think over 20 years. And we're very thankful for that. We have a great fireworks show. It was one of the 4th largest in the United States. We have cut back our show a little bit because of pricing, but we have a great show. And people come from all over. We also do a lobster dinner on the waterfront during the fireworks,
right? And
which is a gated area. It's a really great event. People come down. They come back down every year. And I was just going over the tickets, and I have people from Virginia, Norfolk, coming for the event to come to lobster dinner. You know, and it's things like that that people don't understand. They think it's just, you know, a Connecticut event. It's not a Connecticut event. Our statistics say that people come from New York, Connecticut. So New York being number 1, Connecticut number 2. Massachusetts,
wow.
Rhode Island is the last one, and New Jersey.
Wow.
So
now you're president of this organization.
Not anymore.
Okay. You're still the big wheel.
So I'm the executive director.
You're the executive director.
So what happened is I ran Sailfest up until 2000 for no money. I ran it, and I was just happy to run it. OpSail came in, and we didn't run Sailfest that year. And that woman got a huge sum of money to run that event. And so I'm like, wow, people get paid to do this. So I stepped down. Kip O'Shane is the president of the organization. Barry Neistat is the vice president. Mia Baruvi is secretary, and Bill Cornish is treasurer. And they then hired me to run their event. So I get paid to run the event now.
As you should. Where does the executive director get to watch the fireworks?
I watch them down with my whole staff down at the lobster dinner.
Okay.
We go in there and we sit there and we watch it. So that's the best place to watch them.
I saw you one year it was a Sunday afternoon right after it was over, and you were in one of the golf carts that you travel around in. And we caught each other's eye, and you said something like, "Now it's beer time." You deserve that at the end of a Sailfest?
After we clean up, our whole staff goes down to the beer tent, and unfortunately, there's beer left over, and we have to pay for it. So we all have a beer and we reminisce, and it's actually like a meeting. We all, because we're all so busy during the weekend, we actually sit down and we all have a beer and we all talk about like what happened. Like, oh, you should have seen this lady, you know, and her kids on the amusement ride, or you should have seen this person doing something. And so we all just sort of meet and go over the weekend and talk about like what happened, and so we all know going back on Monday, hey, when we get a call to the office that something happened, we all know what's going on. So.
One of the cool things that I'm not sure people realize is that since I've been here, yeah, you got live bands. A lot of them are local. Some of them you bring in. You exposed people to acts like the Iguanas and the Rebirth Brass Band that would never have registered to anyone up here. And that's a really cool aspect. I've watched people have their minds blown by these artists that they had no clue about. Is that something that's fun for you to try to seek out?
No.
It's not?
That is one of my hardest jobs. Andre, who's the event coordinator, and myself worked for 1 month, 3 days a week, seeking out bands, because as people know, there's no gate at this event. So we don't have a huge budget. The money that we make, we donate back to the community. So we tried to bring a headliner in on Fridays and Sundays. And we called every agency I know, trying to find people that you want to see on Friday night that you might never get to see in New London, and nevertheless free. And so it's at the end of the month, I actually was laying on my floor in my office going, what am I gonna do? And it's funny because we ordered lunch from Muddy Waters, and Sue came over and she says, you guys pull it through every year, you'll do it. But we were at the end. We were like, the timeline was ticking down. We had to book somebody, and we got a great band, Walter Wolfman Washington out of New Orleans. It's gonna be a great show. And like you said, you know, sometimes people don't know the names, but if you come out, it's going to be a great, great show.